of new technology, one man tested the bounds of his First Amendment rights. Edward Snowden, National Security Advisor and contractor, held information about highly classified government surveillance programs. In May of 2013, he succumbed to a personal conviction about government invasion of privacy. Snowden intentionally leaked this information to media reporters so that they would inform the public of these practices. An analysis of the legal ramifications of Edward Snowden's case will demonstrate the impact of his case on mass media protections and rights in America. In December of 2012, 29-year-old Snowden sent encrypted messages to Guardian journalists Glenn Greenwald and Laura Poitras, a documentary maker, concerning the NSA's surveillance programs. On May 24, 2013, Snowden showed them secret documents that exposed thousands of secrets about the NSA. By giving this information directly to media reporters, Snowden ensured that the unlawful practices by the NSA would be exposed for the world to see. This act stands as an example of the entire purpose of mass media in America, to inform the public. Most of the leaks included top-secret files that were unlawfully created during the Obama administration. Snowden's stolen files proved the NSA had recorded communication of millions of U.S. and foreign citizens regardless of their potential or suspected terrorist activities. These leaks exposed some of the most secret surveillance operations ever performed by the U.S. and Britain. Snowden's act stands as the most significant national security leak in American history. Had he not utilized mass media reportage, Snowden's information would not have gained public and global attention. Regardless of guilt or innocence, his actions sparked international dialogue and will influence how the NSA conducts surveillance programs in the future. Additionally, the U.S. government and court systems' reactions to Snowden's actions will have a lasting impact on First Amendment rights. His story will stand as another landmark case concerning the interpretations of free speech and press rights and protections. Snowden faces charges with 2 violations of the 1917 Espionage Act for intentionally revealing classified information and stealing government property. Espionage is generally defined as the act of spying in order to obtain information about the plans, procedures, and activities of a government. Each of these violations would put Snowden in prison anywhere from 30 years to life. Immediately after Snowden leaked this information, he had to flee the country. The Obama administration has acted aggressively against cases like his. Since its passage in 1917, there have been a total of 9 formal indictments under the Espionage Act. The Obama administration has seen 6 of those 9. The First Amendment's rights and protections create a safe haven for American citizens to reasonably criticize the government. The Free Press Clause made a path for mass media to act as the watchdog of society. Such transparency is necessary for an accessible, accountable, and cooperative government. When Snowden leaked his classified information, he was fulfilling this very purpose. He brought unlawful NSA surveillance programs to a transparent state, to free and open debate. Schenck versus United States, an early 20th century Supreme Court case, set a long-standing test for future free speech issues. This landmark case concerned the balance between free criticism of the government and espionage. After the case, Justice for Oliver Wendell Holmes established the clear and present danger test. This assessment asked if the speech produced obvious and imminent harm that the U.S. can constitutionally prevent. In regards to the charges of espionage, the courts must ask if Snowden truly put the American people in clear and present danger. If the answer is a definitive yes, then the courts can claim precedent and smoothly convict Snowden of all charges. But if the answer is not definitively yes, then any decision the courts make will hold drastic weight for the future of First Amendment interpretations. By convicting him without any clear and present danger, the courts could create a stage for future abuses of government that cannot be reported without legal retribution. The right to free speech and media primarily exists for the common good. Some, like John Cassidy of The New Yorker, have conceded that Snowden did break laws, but should receive amnesty. Cassidy argued that Snowden's public service outweighed any violation of trust he may have committed. The U.S. government collected phone logs and emails of Americans with no links to terrorism without obtaining court warrants, which is a breach of the Fourth Amendment. Additionally, some have called the NSA's actions more than an invasion of privacy, but a global threat to freedom and expression on the internet. These two assertions alone demonstrate that Snowden served his fellow citizens before himself. Snowden's leaks exposed illegal government procedures that the American people had a right to know about. Additionally, he triggered a debate that is necessary for this age of advanced and personalized technology. The exposed programs raised up questions and issues that should have been argued in the public political arena and not behind closed doors. He served the purpose of the First Amendment, to criticize the government and inform the people through free speech and press. Surveys over the past few years demonstrated that the general public have formed a supporting majority opinion about Snowden's actions. Since the leaks, 86% of internet users have taken steps to remove their digital footprints. Additionally, 75% stated that it is very important for them to be in control of who can get information about them. American distrust of the government is at an all-time high. A 2017 poll confirmed that America is currently experiencing the longest period of distrust in its history, or in 50 years. In 1958, 73% of citizens said they were comfortable trusting the government most of the time. Now, 50 years later, those numbers are continually declining. At the end of 2017, only 18% of Americans said they trusted the government at all. Snowden was not working against America in some act of espionage. Rather, he was using his First Amendment right and duty to expose the government for the sake of their people. His criticism of the NSA's unlawful surveillance programs placed accountability back into the hands of the American people, which was the original intent of the First Amendment. President Obama was an unwavering supporter of the NSA throughout his presidency. Shortly after the leaks were published, he briefly discussed Snowden's actions in a speech, stating that he would look into reforming surveillance programs. This alone demonstrates the weight of Snowden's leaks. Even Obama, a staunch supporter of the NSA, did not completely defend what they were doing. He actually called for reform as a response to the leaks. Since Snowden's exposure of classified information caused political and legal change and reevaluation of current programs, his actions can be interpreted as an act of service to the public. The government has charged Snowden with espionage, saying he breached national security and worked against America by leaking this information. Under its definition, there is no evidence that Snowden committed espionage. His intentions seem to be directed towards benefiting the American people, which would be the opposite of espionage. Under normal circumstances, employees who expose injustice of their organization receive protection under the Whistleblowers Act of 1989. This statute protects those who report evidence of waste, fraud, or abuse of an institution, including the federal government. These regulations do have a few caveats, one of them being that if you are in the intelligence community, you cannot disclose information about national security. Therefore, the merits of Snowden's actions are irrelevant because of the content of his leaks. Even though he may have the rights to free speech, there are laws like the Whistleblower Protection Act that state exceptions to the First Amendment for people like him. This causes a strong issue for any of the government's most classified employees, who may be subject to massive legal consequences, but know the most information, and would know when the government is acting unjust. Those who feel the need to report classified yet non-threatening information to the press are not legally protected. They have limited options. They could quietly resign, endure watching the abuses of their own government, or report the fraudulent actions and suffer legal retribution for it. The First Amendment was intended to be a safe haven for whistleblowers like Snowden. Without people like him, there's no one to expose the government, and therefore the most dangerous government abuses. When establishing if an act is patriotic or treasonous, the court system must account for the intentions of the person who committed the act. In an interview, Snowden was plainly asked if he was a traitor. He replied, "Of course not," and expounded by asking the audience to consider who benefited from the leaked information. He intentionally and directly benefited the American public when he specifically gave his information to journalists so that they would tell people about government wrongdoing. He did this without jeopardizing national security by taking out names and locations. In a society built of, by, and for the people, such men should be regarded as patriots. Still, the federal government has an opportunity to find him guilty. There are no legal protections in place for whistleblowers like Snowden. Those liberties are promised to those who are not in the intelligence communities, who may not know enough about government abuses to report them. It should be equal, if not the exact opposite. People involved in the intelligence community should have just as much right to speak out and report government wrongdoings. One's right to criticize the government should not diminish with a classification status. While his actions may have been technically illegal, Snowden demonstrated responsibility and bravery. He stands as a beacon of patriotism. Edward Snowden held a conviction concerning his own government's power. He faced a dilemma: to report the NSA and risk his own freedom, or to stay silent and safe. As a contractor to the intelligence community, he is not protected with rights guaranteed to average citizens. He had to put himself into tremendous legal trouble to expose these abuses. Mass media reportage works to criticize the government and inform the people. This is allowed with the First Amendment's guarantee to free speech. However, when Snowden utilizes this, he was sought after as a criminal. An examination of the Snowden dilemma has displayed the need for stronger First Amendment protections for all government employees, particularly in the areas of free speech and media reportage, even at the cost of government capabilities. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Edward Snowden, the year that he leaked this information. There have been times throughout American history where what is right is not the same as what is legal. Sometimes to do the right thing, you have to break the law. That's it.